Just wanted to make sure that before we start, remember spoilers, a lot of spoilers ahead. Hello and welcome. This is my first video. I just recently binge watched Umbrella Academy and wanted to give my review. So let me know if I missed something or if you liked my review. Maybe I can keep doing this with other videos that I end up binge watching. So let's start with the overall story. We pick up where we kind of left off. The members of the Academy, the Umbrella Academy, they're landing in the 1960s in an alley in Dallas. They all land in different years, very close to Kennedy's assassination. And Five is the last one to land and finds out, when he arrives, he gets into this scene where it finds out another end of the world event, this time at the hand of nukes. But he still doesn't really know as to how it all happens. So he goes onto this mission to kind of reunite the team together as a group of deadly brothers sent by the commission are trying to kill them to stop them from trying anything. We get a glimpse into everyone's life as they were stranded alone for some years, and it's revealed that Vanya again is the reason for the nukes as she explodes an FBI building that leads to a deadly war. Eventually Ben, the brother that we saw in season 1 that died 17 years ago, somehow is able to stop and enter Vanya's subconscious as she is exploding and manages to stop her and saving the world, but finally ending his life once and for all. After this moment, we get to go to the final battle as Harlan, a child that received Vanya's power as she resuscitated him after drowning, is now having a similar uncontrollable reaction to his power. At this time, the handler and her superpowered daughter fight off the Umbrella Academy. The handler wants to take possession of the child so that she can harness his power the same way she did with her daughter Lila that she took by murdering her parents. Eventually they stop the handler, and the remaining Swedish killer brother kills the handler as he discovers that she had manipulated them and gotten one of his brothers killed. The commission gets a new sensible leader, and the family gets to go back to 2019 to find that things have changed, and now there is a new team, new characters, and now the Umbrella Academy has ceased to exist, and now it's called Sparrow Academy. The season ends and we are left with this cliffhanger. That was a very short and summary of the season, but now let's dive in a little bit more so I can give you my review, my reactions to some things. That the first episode, we see how the show starts, and to again I mentioned how Five finally lands and he witnesses the end of the world once again. And he lands into this, what someone calling this Avenger style intro, into where all the characters are now fighting, but they're not just fighting, but now you can see how they have become more attuned to their powers, and just shows their true potential. I think this show talks a lot about potential versus reality and the process one must undergo to reach that goal. I kind of was waiting to see this scene again later on and was a little disappointed not to see such an epic fight at the end, but it was still really good to see this at the beginning. You get to see how Diego is, jumping and bending things. We see Vanya full of flying, gliding and just showing her power. We start really seeing we can see Claus, how he's using, his power of the dead to really great for battle. So it was an amazing scene. Even though we didn't get to see it later on, I think it was still good that we got to see it early on in the series. And then the first episode kind of starts right back where we started. So something that I didn't initially like was that the story seemed to be repeating itself. Even the characters seemed to play around with this idea by saying again, we're doing that again. And the fact that Doomsday will happen again in 10 days seemed a little bit too familiar. Also, since the beginning, they started jokingly foreshadowing Vanya's cause of this. It will be the cause once again, which eventually she did. So this was again, something that we know with Umbrella Academy. They do like to sort of hide all these Easter eggs or this foreshadowing of things that I guess the first time I saw the season 1, I didn't know that's what they were doing, but they were kind of hinting at Vanya. But now again, they were hinting, and so I was like, no, they're just trying to trick me. They're not gonna make Vanya again the cause of the end of the world, but it was. So I guess initially I was a little already, a little bit turned off, knowing that I guess I was already knowing what was going to happen, and it was very similar story. But I think what they were trying to do is show us how, despite it was similar story, the characters have in some way evolved, spending some time alone, believing that the rest of the family is somehow dead or missing. I think this season was more on building relationships. We see number 1 creating a father-type relationship with this mafia guy, and we also see Klaus, how he has created this following, this cult, which he doesn't like calling a cult. All these followers, that he has this void, he feels nothing for them, but you see how he's trying to go into something deeper. And so another thing that another pattern that I start seeing is this lack of things. I think there's a lack of, in the sense of intoxication. Later on we find out that Klaus has been sober for 3 years, so the fact that he is sober, that he is away from all these things that kind of limit his abilities, is really making him better, trying to find true joy. Eventually he does hit rock bottom again. Eventually we see Vanya again, and talking about lack of things, she ends up losing her memory when she lands in the alley. She is walking and she gets hit by a car. This family, this woman and the child. This woman takes Vanya to his house, which ends up being a farm, and kind of takes care of her, as she feels bad that she hurt her. Eventually Vanya loses her memory, and so Vanya kind of has this tabula rasa moment, this clean slate, this moment that she really becomes just Vanya, without any baggage or any hurts or any memories or any association to anything related to the Umbrella Academy. We saw in season 1, Vanya wrote a book, so there was all these things connecting her to the Umbrella Academy, and so she always lived under the shadows of that. But now finally she just gets to be Vanya, and she gets to be herself. So that was something really interesting to see, the lack of memory and leading to her becoming in a way happier. We also get to see Allison, and in the first year she also has a lack of voice, which also kind of helps her, she says, to really feel proud of who she's becoming, to knowing that she has in a way earned the things and not taking shortcuts and manipulated things in order to get what she wants. So for that first year, she ends up actually marrying someone, and also seems to be married to the cause. She joins the civil rights movement, the anti-segregation movement that was happening at the time of black and white. And she gets to have a voice in that movement. So again, it's very interesting to see how Allison becomes someone different as she is being just her finally. Diego also has to find a new relationship. Diego ends up dating the handler's daughter, which we mentioned, that was Lila. She is someone that's going to later on betray them and is actually a secret spy. So it's very interesting to see that Diego, despite is one of the people who doesn't really trust people that much, who is like really trying to be this lone wolf independent character, is the one that ends up trusting the wrong person, and not only trusting the wrong person, but eventually falling in love with her. And the good thing is that she does end up falling in love with him, and so it's this sort of pretty messy relationship for a while, but we also get to see Diego building a relationship finally. We get to see number 5, and number 5, we didn't see a lot of new relationships being built. He still has this very old persona, this very I'm responsible, I'm older than everyone, I'm wiser than everyone. So we see someone that, again, it's really more having this relationship with his family, really trying to protect everyone. He jokes a lot, hopefully he's joking, but he mentions a lot that he'll kill them or he's gonna hurt his family, but in a way he never does it. He's always somehow trying to protect. And I think it's because he feels responsible to a certain point of everything that's happened. He mentions it time after time. I jumped and I brought my family with me and I caused this, and this is all my fault. So he somehow feels responsible for everything that's happening. Another person that I do want to mention is Lila. Despite she's not part of the Umbrella Academy characters of the siblings, but she does, later on we'll find out that she was actually born on the same day, so she's part of those children that were born with all these amazing abilities, so she's able to reflect and absorb the powers of the other members of the academy. So that made her a very strong opponent. So talking about relationships, it was interesting to see how at the end they call her a sister or part of the family. So at the end they realize that she is actually one of the children that was born the same day as dating. Every single one of them, there's this deep connection that despite that they're not biologically connected, there's this sense of connection by being born on the same day that they all feel like they're somehow family. So somehow they are meant to be together. So it's very interesting because now we get a deeper sense into this family, into how it's, even though it's very dysfunctional, they do see each other as part of a family. And not only that, but they see that other members, other people who they don't know, but were born the same day, they somehow feel this connection. So it's very interesting to see. Another character that we get to dive in this season was the dad and his relationship with the children. We see in episode 6, A Light Supper, we see how the dad was really not impressed, or even to a certain point disappointed, and that there was that these were his children. He jokes around, or he mentions that he will never have children, but in a way when he looks at, he says, if I do have children, this is what I have. So at the first thought, I really thought that he was joking, or that he was not really joking, but that he was trying to make his children stronger. We see a scene later on when Ben dies. We see a flashback of when Ben dies, that the dad says, you are responsible for this. Keep the pain in your heart, because this is the only way you're going to learn. And if you remember this pain, it will never happen again. We will never have to deal with this. So I saw him, as being this sort of very strong figure, that was trying to teach them by not being this, nice father, by helping them becoming stronger. But that's what I thought initially, but somehow it kind of seems that not really. It seems like he was, in a way, perhaps he was just really disappointed. So let me know what you think on that, if he was really disappointed. Another thing that I liked about this season is that we got to see some origin story. And it's interesting because there's some origin stories that I didn't really know I needed or wanted, but it was really good to have some of those where where we get to see Pogo and we get to see his journey, going to outer space. We see how he was created. And so we saw this loving relationship with Pogo and the dad and Hargreaves. But, we never really dove in too much into how Pogo's life. It was interesting when there was this scene with Pogo Hertz, one of the members of the Umbrella Academy, and it got me thinking a little bit about that, of his original state, who he was. So we also get to see the mom. That was also interesting to see how she is alive. And when I mean alive, I mean the flesh, an actual human, which I hope she is. Maybe later on we'll show that it was actually some sort of android robot. But in this moment, moment she seemed she was a real person. So maybe I missed that, but in season 1 I don't think that was really something mentioned. So it was interesting to see how later on the image or the person that becomes mom was actually a real person, and so someone that Hargreaves really cared for. So again, Hargreaves, we later on find out that he is talking about origin story. Something we also found out was that we get to see the true self of the dad. We get to see the original self of Reginald Hargreaves, which we get to see that he's actually a sort of creature from another planet. He's an alien, and we only get to see the back of his face, and we only get to hear the sounds, but we know he can be aggressive and probably has super strength. We see him fighting Diego in an epic fight, and so that was really cool to see, and how and his fighting abilities. So it's interesting to see more of who he was. I honestly wanted to see a bit more of the dad. I wanted to understand. I feel like the dad character wasn't used as much, or maybe his backstory wasn't used as much, but I guess they want to slowly tell us more about who he is. And last season we only saw maybe once or twice a little bit of his story, and here we only again see it in that moment. We did get to see that he was a member of the Magnificent 12, the secret organization, so we get to see a little bit of his already ideas and plans, but again, they're keeping him very secretive. So it's very interesting to see the dad. Also, another question that kind of starts to arise is, do you believe that the mom was also a sort of alien creature, that when they both maybe came together to the planet Earth and somehow with this mission to really help the world, maybe, and so she is an alien as well, or is she human? So that's something else that I'm going to leave you to think about. Another thing that we get to really see a little bit more is we see how when Vanya resuscitates Harlan in this scene, where this really epic scene again, where she kind of puts the water up in the air, we can see as she kind of breathes into him, this sort of light particles go into his body. And it's again very similar particles that was released by the father in season 1. So again, we're starting to maybe realize and see that these children most likely were created or a result of the particles that were released. So we saw that were released by the father at the end of season 1. So overall, let me just give you my rating. I think I will give this I give this a thumbs up, and out of 5 stars, I think I would give it a 3.5 to a 4. Kind of sometimes it's 3.5 through a 4, and the reason why it's because it was a little bit too familiar. Again, it was a little bit too familiar in the story itself, that didn't really since the beginning I already knew it was going to be Vanya. But I guess, like I mentioned, that wasn't really the focus of this. I think the focus was more about building the characters, building the story, and I think the story was really again well told. It was this scene where number 1 tells future past, I guess, number 5 when he's still an old man. And so it's interesting to see, tells him, hey, that eye that you have in your hand is really pointless. Nothing's going to come up out of that. So that was really interesting, again, to see how he tells him, hey, you're going to spend a lot of time searching for something that is pointless. And I kind of believe that that's a big goal of the Umbrella Academy, just really a lot of some in a certain point, pointless moments, and I kind of like that into a certain point. I do like seasons or shows to be very leading up to something, not being pointless at certain things. But I kind of feel like this is what life somehow it is. Things feel like that's how life is to a certain point. There's things that you try, you kind of see if it works, you just have ideas, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But some shows, everything they do is kind of leading them to something. And so in this season, we got to see that again. We got to see it through this believing that the assassination of Kennedy is important. Diego was the one mostly believing this, but somehow made a very unarguable point, and the fact that everyone's kind of connected to the assassination and things like that. And also there was even this moment where there's a episode called Olga for Olga, and number one and Diego, they're calling Olga Faroga, and they're even like saying things, and I'm gonna hurt you, I'm gonna kill you, and eventually number 5 just says that actually means an eye for an eye. And so again, we see how they're searching, or they're trying things out that eventually ends up being nothing good, or nothing really resolving an issue. So what I'm saying, I guess overall the story was interesting. Overall, the way they did it, the way the storytelling was good. I think the characters are still really fun to watch. I love the acting of character of number 5. You can feel he's old, but somehow he's mature. I don't know, really like his acting. I like the handler in the show. I like the kind of the reveal of the daughter. That one I honestly did not see it coming since the beginning. Honestly, I thought Lila was going to be just forgotten in the asylum, and eventually when she did escape, I thought somehow she was going to get killed or caught in the crossfire, but somehow she ended up being a very important character at the end. So it'd be really interesting to see a lot more of her in future seasons. So I think overall, it was an interesting show. That's my rating. Give it a thumbs up, 3.5 to 4 stars. Let me know what you think. Again, if I go episode to episode, I could really talk about every single episode. So I know I missed a lot of details, but let me know in the comments below, what was your favorite moment? Again, I really liked this season, wanted to share with you all. So let me know what was your favorite moment, and maybe I can do analysis of each episode if that's something that you will be interested. So let me know. Thank you for watching, and there's a new channel, so help me by liking and subscribing. Thank you.